Nice. So what's the weather out there in Calgary?
You know what? It's been not horrible. We've actually delayed a couple of our sessions that we had planned out in the mountains,
Okay.
just because it's been super windy.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had rain on Sunday. We had snow, ice.
Snow,
Yeah,
rain.
Yeah, it's not pretty in Ottawa right now. We're having some freezing rain.
Yeah, me too. So I'm packing right now for the 2-day championship. So the problem is, so I'm giving my trailer to Kelly in Kingston. That I'm picking up Adam Cool's old trailer in Cordis. So I've got to find a way to get all that gear for the briefest moment. for 3 hours, I've got to carry a trailer's worth somehow. It's going to be Beverly Hillbilly style all over my pickup truck.
So I guess just bring less loaner rifles.
Yeah, I think so, but it's not. It's all the added gear. Plus I'm camping for 2 days there, right? So I need all of my gear.
And so you're getting Adam's hand-me-down trailer, huh?
I'm getting I'm like NRS's little brother.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're gonna have to get a new truck soon too.
I know that's next year. I'm gonna get a half ton, but so far Little Red's doing okay.
What do you got for a pull vehicle?
It's a Dodge Dakota.
Oh yeah.
With a V8, so just a small 4.7, just enough. The key is, I'm worried now because the bigger the trailer, the more gear you pack. So that's the thing.
Yeah, well, and we're going through those mountain passes probably out west in BC and stuff. It's probably not that.
It was all right. It's.
I think Adam upgraded his trailer so he could fit an ATV in it.
No, Adam upgraded his trailer so he could buy a Tundra.
Yeah, and that. Yeah.
That's it. That's awesome. Which is not a bad strategy. So so I'll probably get a Ram 1500 next year.
Nice.
So we'll see.
With a diesel Cummins engine or what?
I don't know. Now maybe get a 2500. I don't really need a diesel. I just need a big 5.7 liter Hemi would be more than enough. Yeah. I'm a Dodge guy, so
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, John's coming back.
I was a GM guy until I bought a pickup. So I had like Yukons and
nice
and whatever Tahoes and all that kind of stuff. I actually had a Tahoe hybrid, the first one that came out. It was good. It was great, but I ended up buying it in the States and importing it.
Yeah.
It worked really well, and then I ended up buying a pickup because we were like, well, why not? You're in Alberta, you have to buy a pickup.
Yeah.
But no, I ended up working out that I test drove all the GM stuff, all the Sierras and the 1500s and everything like that, and then I test drove an F-150 and a Ram, and I'm like, I love the way the F-150 drives. It just seemed like just lighter, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that route, and now my in-laws make fun of me because I'm a Ford guy now, apparently. So.
Yeah, there's a lot that comes with driving a Ford.
Yeah. Dan says stay away from the 1500. Yeah, I know all about that eco diesel and the EGR puking all into the intake. Yeah, let's get a Cummins and be done with it, but that's a bit of a snack bracket increase when you get into.
They sound really cool though.
Yes, Steven, I love rust. I don't mind. Wheel wells and fenders are optional.
I'm gonna beat him on the weekend just for that comment.
What's that? Oh yeah. Good luck,
Thomas.
Buddy.
Hey, how you guys
doing?
Good, man. So everybody's here. We get it. Kevin's shooting on the weekend, right?
Last time I spoke to him, he was still on the fence, but most likely going.
Oh, he's got to shoot the last.
He has to come. We need the help to show the West how it's done.
No, John just wants to beat him. That's all you want, John. All right, guys, let's stand by. We'll kick off the intro. We'll be right back. Stand by. Hey, welcome to the Rimfire Nation Podcast, episode 33. Tonight we've got Vanja from Apex Optics, Apex Company?
Apex Optics, yeah.
Apex Optics. I want to put Apex Precision in there for some reason, but maybe it's Well, welcome, Vanya. Tonight we have Matt, Thomas, and John joining us. Rimfire Nation Podcast is proudly presented by Tesro.ca. Good news from Tesro and CZ this year is the CZ 600 line of centerfire rifles. I believe they're going to do to that centerfire line what they've done with a 4.57, which is basically something for everybody. Have you guys had a chance to look at that stuff yet? They've got a Trail 600, which is basically the perfect truck gun. So it's a collapsible stock 223, takes Stanag mags. It's not bad. It's not bad. So shorty barrel. I'm intrigued. Actually, the Kurt Rouse at Saskatoon, Twisted Rooster, he had a 8-tack Mini Hawa shorty custom build from EM Precision. That thing was sexy, super sexy. It's the problem is it's just a little bit out of my price range, but the CZ 600 Trail is half that. Have you seen that one, Vanya?
Yeah, I had my hands on the Mini Hawa build that EM did.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to try it out. It's a nice rifle.
It's pretty sexy. It's freaking loud though. I wasn't used to it. Oh man, but it's nice. That's I think my perfect truck gun. So
that CZ one looks super interesting though too. I was looking through that press release and all the different. I think it's like 5 or 6 different rifles.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a range. There's a Lux. There's a Trail. There's quite a few. There's something for everyone.
Yeah,
definitely. Cool. Definitely going to be a home run. I think what I understand is they're guaranteeing a 3/4 MOA in a 5-round group, which should be pretty 5-round 3/4 MOA. So that'll be interesting. So
how do you guarantee that?
Fault, right?
Yeah.
How do they guarantee that? Do they just shoot a bunch of groups at the factory and then print the one that shoots less than an MOA, or like?
I think their quality control is so precise that they have no issues. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Without any further ado, welcome Vanya from Apex. There's been quite a buzz since your pre-sale hit the market. And then First Focal Plane had you on, and then we met in Calgary, and I got to put my greasy mitts on a development sample, which was pretty impressive. And today or yesterday, I received I guess it's the production trial. Tell me about where exactly that fits in the whole development process, and we'll get into kind of how you guys got into it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, 100% the version that you got to look at in the parking lot outside where we met, that one was one of the initial early prototypes that we had ran as just kind of a proof of concept. Let's just make sure that we have all the features that we're looking for. This is kind of what we want to do. The glass is good. Turrets are feeling good. Let's make some adjustments based off that. And at that point in time, we had already submitted our 3D models for what we wanted the exterior of the body to look like and all the different knobs and turrets and kind of the knurling and all the different all the markings and color schemes and all the stuff that we wanted to do. And then at that point, like the internal mechanical system had been settled on by that point for that prototype. And we ran that prototype and amongst probably 2 or 3 other versions of it throughout the summer at all the different kind of Western matches that we had for centerfire that we had kind of been able to get out to. We had it on a demo rifle at the Sharpshooter Classic. We had I had gone to some matches in BC at Merritt, the MAMDT Midsummer Madness one, and then the Cypress Showdown in Saskatchewan, and then obviously the Furlong match there. So we had lots of eyes behind it. Lots of people had an opportunity to test it out and try it out and play with it, and we had some really good feedback. And even from that point, we had an opportunity to make some adjustments and kind of go back to the factory before this pre-production run was available to us. So we had got these pre-production, they call them samples, but they're really the final version prototype. And so we figured, this is the closest version that we're going to have before the actual production run. So that's where we're comfortable sending it out to people. It's comfortable sending it out to reviewers, yourself to look at and have it on the demo rifle there, the all Canadian build. And then yeah, we're just kind of going to town on it now. And now is our first opportunity to do a full range of testing that we've been waiting to do, take some promo shots and get some media online and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, you must have been pretty excited to get that
honestly,
that delivery, man.
yeah, I was tracking that FedEx package like you wouldn't believe. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. I mean, like from the fit and finish of everything, I don't know if that's the final packaging with that CNC cut foam. It's pretty slick. Like it just works.
Yeah. You know, I have the box behind me there, but yeah, you're right. Like I think you previewed it a little bit today on the Facebook page, but that is kind of what we were going for. We're going for a high-end finish. It's kind of like a matte finish box with a little bit of a UV spot treatment on the Apex emblem there, kind of horizontally. We were trying to go for like simple, clean, precise, all across the board between the scope itself. Obviously, that's the most important thing, but the packaging had to be good. We want to make sure that it was protected in transit, not just to us. And then once we do our QC check here, but it's also to the end user and the customer. Once they get it, they need to feel that it's, you know, well taken care of on the route. So,
I mean, when I opened that, I mean, it was breathtaking. Just seeing that the details and the color. And if those that don't, if you're on the CRPS Facebook page, you can see kind of the mini unboxing there. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Fit and finish is awesome.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, so we're eager to mount it on the rifle, and I'm sure that is going to get handled a lot this weekend.
Good, excellent. That's
so
great.
It's going to be good. It'll be on an all Canadian build. So it'll be the Deuce with MDT with a Trigger Tech, Skypod, Apex Optics, MDT rings, and I think that's it.
IBI barrel.
IBI barrel, correct, with a tricked out Harris bipod from Marginet Metalworks. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So when you go to sight it in, honestly, it was ridiculous. I mounted it on my rifle at home. I torqued everything down properly, whatever. We get out to where we were shooting and we're doing our testing, and I literally bore sighted it. First shot was a centimeter or half a centimeter off bullseye. I've never done that before, and I was like, this is probably a sign of good things to come. And then my second shot was, I just did like a mill down to get it on, and it was just bang on, like right on top of each other. And then we just messed around with them for days. We're just playing with the turrets, making sure that it's tracking left, right. And we had like 17 mile an hour gusting winds, crosswind. It was insane. So we had a good time on Sunday. It was fun.
Yeah. Those turrets are going to get worked over this weekend.
Good.
Yeah, well, especially with the rimfire shooting, we turn those turrets a lot more than center fire.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What kind of MOAs do you guys usually run for, like rails and mounts and that kind of stuff?
60.
40.
50.
That's good. Yeah.
20 is so 2018.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
That was for RPS, right?
Yeah.
We had it on two rifles. We had it on a 6mm Creedmoor and a 300 PRC. And on the PRC, we had it on a 50 MOA rail, and it zeroed just fine without any issue. There's lots of travel in there. And on mine it was more or less the same thing. So it's good.
So why don't we talk about just some of the features that you guys agonized over in developing, or maybe just give a background over kind of the specs, if you don't mind, just so folks who aren't familiar with it can kind of get the nickel tour, if I may use that expression of
100%. So I mean, I have one of them here, and one of the main things that we were looking for was a form factor that had the 56mm objective lens on it. We added the beauty ring because we wanted something to kind of separate ourselves from the competition. Everybody else has more or less the straight black look. We wanted our logo and colors to pop through. One of the main things that's going to be actually different in the production one is that there's supposed to be an embossed kind of a medallion affixed to instead of it being pad printed in this run. But one of the things that we really thought was important was to have the 15 mil per revolution turrets, just because it allows you to use that overall internal adjustment, especially with the zero stop system, right? So we, in this scope, I think there's total internal adjustment about a 31 to 32 mils. And so we wanted to try to maximize that as much as possible, right? So if you want to go bottom it out with an 80 MOA rail or mount, then you can go ahead and do that and it'll still work just fine. But one of the things that we did here was with the throw lever, we decided to make it an integrated throw lever that was see-through. Most of them ones are kind of threaded in, right? And so one of the design choices that we made was to actually have these set screws. So this thing just pops right in and out with the 2 set screws. So right now for the pre-production model, it's a little bit, they didn't get the tolerances quite right. So it's a little bit wonky, so it doesn't really come out. But for the production, that'll be fixed. But I don't know if you can see here, you can actually see your position at like a 12x to 13x. You'll actually be able to see what your what setting you're on your elevation turret. So that's one of the reasons that we decided to do that. I mean, the fast focus lens there, and parallax is down to 15 yards to infinity. We have these great graduation marks. I don't know if you can see them here. So the first mark is 100, then it goes to like 300, 500, 800, and then infinity. So at least it gives you some reference points of where to start, depending on weather conditions and atmospheric density and all that jazz, right? Yeah, so that's kind of more or less the gist of it. 34 millimeter tube gives you lots and lots of travel. And then one of the things that we decided to do with the zoom ring is that we angled the numbers towards the shooter, so you don't have to lift up to see kind of where you're at. And then once you kind of get to know the scope and you get to use it a lot more, you'll kind of know where that indexing point is for where you like to have it. Some guys like to shoot at 12, other guys at 18, 16, that kind of stuff. So generally speaking, there's lots of adjustment there. And like I said, once you get used to it, it's pretty nice. It's slick. And we decided to give a bit of an oversized ring here. So we didn't just go with the straight flat. We wanted to raise it, give a little bit more oomph to the whole thing, right? There's a little bit more mass to grab onto, especially in a fast situation when you're trying to adjust your zoom. And then honestly, one of the most important parts of this entire thing has been the reticle system. So the reticle itself, we feel, is probably the most important part of the scope apart from the glass. And we spent a lot of time designing that thing, and I don't know what to say about it, but I think it's one of the better reticles out there in our opinion, because we try to take the best elements from probably the 4 or 5 top reticles out there and then just combine it in a nice clean fashion. And yeah, thanks for popping that up. Yeah, so nice open 0.05 mil center floating dot. It's got all the markings that you need. We even go at the half interval, so you got 2, 4, 6, 8, as well as the 0.5. So it just gives you a nice quick, at a glance, you can kind of see where you're at. And on the elevation reference marks too, we give you the 0.5s in between like the 0 and the 1 and the 1 and the 2, so that there's a lot of times where you're having to hold over kind of in those in between marks, and at least it gives you a little bit of a reference point that you can bracket things properly.
No, I like that reticle a lot. It
Same here.
Just makes sense. Just makes sense. So where's the light that shows you where to hold for wind?
That's in the Gen 2 coming.
Is that a Gen 2? Okay.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
I like the look of the knurling you put on it, like that kind of like frag grenade style. It's good for grip, but not like gonna wreck your knuckles or anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I handled my friend's XTR3, the Burris, and the knurling on that thing is like a cheese grater. So yeah, yours looks a bit better than that.
We've tried to radius those edges just a little bit, just so it's not a cheese grater and it doesn't wreck your knuckles. Like you said, you're trying to reach for something real fast and you rip your hand open. Yeah, that's not a good thing either. Yeah. That's one of the things we actually noticed. Sorry, Rick. One of the things we noticed on the pre-production here that we're going to be fixing on the production run on the throw lever itself. It's a little bit sharp around the edges, so we're going to radius that off and just make sure that's a little bit more user-friendly.
Can you talk a little bit more about the zero stop system you have in that scope?
Yeah, for sure. What would you like to know?
I guess, is it similar to the other ones where you just have to slip the dial to 0 and it's always within whatever half a mil below, or do you actually have to like take the turret off and do something? And
yeah, it's literally you. There's just the 3 set screws that are here. You just take it off, and then the zero stop system is disengaged out of the factory. Okay. So there's just a little bit of it's like a V-shaped mechanism that you flip over to the right. I guess to the clockwise side, and then that engages the zero stop. There's a little post that it hits, and then you just basically plop it back on, tighten the 3 set screws, and you're good to go.
And that design limits you to be within 2 rotations. That's why you were saying 15 mils to get the most out of the 32 mil of internal elevate. Okay.
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
sense. Very cool.
Yeah, and then the 2-turn indicator is also the same part of that zero stop system. It's actually the same mechanism. So I don't know if you guys have noticed that on the website, but this little stainless steel piece right here is the 2-turn pop-up indicator that allows you to. Oh, sorry, Ricky.
Yeah, there you go.
There, yeah. So right now it's recessed. There we go. So it's recessed now below, and then as you're on the second turn, it'll pop up, and it'll let you know. So right now on this one, for whatever reason, it's not popping up all the way, and that's another one of my production notes. But it's supposed to kind of go up by about probably 1/4 inch above to 1/8 of an inch. So it's a bit of a protrusion, and it'll show you that you're on your second turn if you lost track for whatever reason in the middle of the stage or you just forgot. But
right,
that happens.
It's similar to like a Collis.
Similar, yeah. Yeah, a couple of different companies do a different way. I think like Vortex does it out the side on the Razor, right?
Yeah.
There's a pop out there, and then a couple of different companies do vertical.
Yeah.
We chose to go vertical because, I mean, you're going to see it probably a little bit more easily.
How much tension is it when you hit that second rotation indicator? Is it fairly stiff, or you don't even notice it?
It is stiff. Some people have confused it for they ran out of room. Yeah. But you do have to just kind of power through it. But it's not that bad. Like, I don't know if you can hear it here, but as I'm showing off the clicks here, there is definitely I'd say probably like a 50% detent kind of feel to it. But there's a little bit more resistance than the normal clicks.
Okay. So just for one click, like your more tactile clicks? Or is it like you'll have, 3 or 4 tenths where it's stiffer going through the actual switch?
Yeah, it's about 3 or 4 tenths. Yeah.
So similar to like a Minox would be.
Yeah.
Versus just the Schmidt and Bender has more tactile clicks. There's just 1/10.
Yeah. It's not a hard bridge, I guess, or like a wall that you go over, right? So it's definitely a little bit more gradual.
Yeah.
You could probably try it out on the weekend there, John.
Yeah, I might try to do that.
Yeah. I don't want to lure you away from your ZP5 collection there.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Vanya, does the windage turret, is it capped or locking or just free?
It's free.
Free? Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the windage turret is 10 per rotation. So we just have
interesting. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And it's marked right and left.
Yep.
Nice. I hate it when it's just one way. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see it. There you go.
I can't see, but I trust.
Let me do solo layout there.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
And then if you go, that's the right, and then left.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. And they're nice and big. You should be able to pick it up pretty easily.
Good for old men like me, shooters of a certain age.
Does it come with a sunshade?
Yeah, it does. So this version that we just shipped out doesn't come with a sunshade, but the production ones are going to come with the scope, the actual flip up covers, and a 3-inch sunshade.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah, the flip up covers. Go ahead.
Go on top, or they screw inside?
They go over top.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, they're kind of compression fit. They're actually almost near impossible to take off. No lie, I have to reef on it. I'm like, it's a nice tight fit. Yeah,
it's all good.
Nice. And then the nice thing is that the sunshade actually doesn't cover the beauty ring, which was one of the more important things in my mind. But the flip up covers don't cover it. It just kind of comes right up against it.
So I guess we'll have to use black tape.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use whatever you want to cover it up if you don't like it. Absolutely.
I know I was teasing you on the Facebook post there, but it actually looks like, now that I know it's orange and not red, it's a big difference to me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, we don't want the AliExpress special, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
Yeah,
I'll be interested to take a look at it this weekend, Rick. Definitely don't forget it.
No, it's right there by the door. It's got the and there's that 50% off coupon there for some lucky winner, and some stickers, and maybe a hat if I don't snag that hat. That's a really nice hat, Vanja.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the ones that we got kind of internally for ourselves, and we've been waiting for the ones to come in for our promo hats. And there's just been delays like crazy, especially with anything to do with embroidery these days. So they're coming. They're going to be real nice too. But I was going to send you like 10 or so, but it just didn't come in time.
No worries. I know what it's like. So I've never built an optics company or had to build a scope. What's the process that you go through? Maybe if you want to talk about.
Well, Rick, can I interject here? Let's go back to the beginning. Why did you decide to do this?
Because I'm a crazy, insane person, apparently. So not to get into my personal life story too much or anything like that. But my wife and I have had 2 kids under 2. And the first one was born November 2019. The second one was March 2020 or 2021. Sorry. Yeah, this year. Yeah. See, I can't even get that straight. But so with 2 young kids and an infant and all this stuff, we're like, why would I do this? But a couple of years before that, I got into PRS. I was kind of historically pistol sports and 3-gun guy, and did some skeet and whatever before that too. And I love competitive shooting. I love competing. But when kind of 3-gun went a little bit by the wayside after the OIC bans, and I didn't really want to invest in another rifle that was going to get potentially banned. I heard about a lot of guys that I was shooting with, they were talking about going to some PRS style matches and that. It seemed super cool. I always liked the idea of longer range shooting. I kind of built a Rem 700 after that. Based rifle in an ACC chassis and kind of whatever, did my thing and shot my first competition. Loved it. Thought it was awesome. The scene was amazing. Lots of really cool people. Everybody knew I was a beginner, so they were super eager to help out and kind of coach me along the way. And I had like a really inexpensive optic on it. And, I kind of decided to get a custom rifle built. Talked to Shane at EM. He hooked me up with a nice rifle. Once I did that, I was like, well, I can't have this $600 optic on here. I started looking around for all the things that I wanted in an optic. And I was like, oh, that's going to cost me more than the rifle itself. And I didn't want to pay that. And I was just, maybe that's just like the innate cheapness in me. But I've always been kind of like, get the best value for any amount of dollars that you spend. And I couldn't find anything in that $2,000 to $2,300 range that I was willing to spend on a really good quality optic. And for everything that I was looking for in one piece of gear, I didn't want to have to buy 2 or 3 optics to kind of satisfy my needs, because that obviously wouldn't work. But so anyway, that's kind of how the whole thing started. And then once I started looking around, I started assembling a spreadsheet of every single optic that I could get my hands on, that I could find. And I started doing all the spec comparisons, price comparisons. And I was like, you know what? There seemed to be a gap in that $1,800 to $2,300 range, especially in Canada. For like a really good high quality optic with top tier glass, with the turrets that I was looking for the feel and the kind of the responsiveness, the tracking capability. And then I just started talking to a couple of people. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Am I insane? And for the most part, nobody said I was crazy, which was a positive start. And then they're like, yeah, you know what? I think there is a bit of a market here to be had. And then after that, I kind of dipped into my Rolodex, so to speak, to use an old term, and started talking to some people that had some engineering skills that I don't have. I mean, I'm a project and a program manager in cybersecurity. What do you know about building a scope, right? But I have a kind of a bit of an amateur photography background, so I know lens systems and optics quite well, because I like to nerd out on those things. So it just kind of snowballed. Honestly, once I started the process, I started looking for potential manufacturing partners. We honed in on Japan fairly early on in the process, because we didn't really want to necessarily, especially for our first product that we was going to kind of be our signature flagship scope, we didn't want to necessarily go with Philippines, or even though they make fantastic optics at a really good price point too. And same thing with China. There's some really good optics coming out of China these days. So we kind of wanted to set the mark and have our reputation established with our first product, right? So we settled on Japan. And once we started talking to a couple of manufacturers, we were vetting them, they were vetting us. And that was a process that took up to 3 months sometimes to just get us vetted and make sure that we were approved to be working with them, because they're fairly selective about who they work with as well. So we had to prove ourselves too. We had to send over resumes and who was on our team, our funding levels, bank statements. Like, it was kind of crazy at times. But once we kind of got through that hurdle, we started working with the design teams, and then we had some engineers assigned to us. And one of the leads on this project is a guy who I can't name, unfortunately, but he is a guy who was the president of a very famous optics company for about 25 years that was co-founded with his dad. So I'll let people infer from that what they made. But we had some very, very experienced people working with us on this project that I would never have been able to do on my own. So, So the end result is this, right? So we went through several different design iterations. We just kind of went to town on this thing. I said, let's throw everything at the wall. What can we get, right? And then what can we get for a certain price point that's going to be also at the same time worthwhile for us, because we're not going to do this just for the sake of doing it, but it has to make sense both from a financial perspective and has to make sense to the customer and the end user that they're willing to pay this amount of money for this kind of optic. So we think we've hit a really nice balance, and that's kind of how the story began.
That's awesome.
Can I ask, you kind of alluded there that this was your first model. Does that mean you're going to expand the line to other scopes as well, and maybe different magnification and sizes and whatnot?
Absolutely. So the plan is right now how we have a bit of a product roadmap, and one of the next things that we're working on is a hunting optic. So something in the 3 to 15 range with a 50 millimeter objective lens, most likely, locking turrets, all that kind of stuff. For like I myself am a hunter as well. So that's one of the first things that I kind of selfishly want to make.
You're so selfish, Vanja.
I know, right? Yeah. It's going to be also first focal plane, and with them probably a mil and an MOA version. This one's going to stay in mil because there's not a ton of demand for an MOA competition optic. I mean, there's some, but not a ton. So we'd like to keep the number of SKUs limited as much as possible. We're still a small startup company, so we want to keep our inventory manageable. And then the next one is going to be probably a 1 to 10 LPBO, also first focal plane with a mil dot and exposed turrets. That's kind of the next target market that we want to try to hit. Yep. And then after that, we might look into some red dots, some micro red dots. So
nice.
And then obviously not naturally to kind of expand into the hunting space, we're probably looking at some binos, but we're more interested in laser range finding binos than just straight binoculars.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Put a reticle in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be cool because there's nothing like that on the market.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Can I also ask in terms of like the form factor of your scope? Because I noticed it's a fairly compact design, like a lot of modern PRS scopes. Was there any thought in that, like whether or not you wanted a more traditional like body shape, or if you wanted to go compact from the get-go?
We wanted to go compact just because, one, we like the look of them. So from an aesthetic perspective, it made more sense to us to stick to that design. We could go with something longer, something a little bit more, I guess, elongated bell housing.
Yeah.
It just didn't appeal to us when we were talking to the optical engineers too. They said there's no inherent benefit to doing that necessarily, just the way that the lenses are set up. Because inside the scope, I think there's like 8 or 9 different lens systems. So like they were thinking about it and they're like, well, what's the pros? What are you trying to gain here? And I'm like, well, I can't really think of anything off.
That's interesting because I'm not an optic expert by any means, but from what I've read online, it seems that those traditional sized whatever bells and scopes, all else equal, it's easier to get like a better image apparently, just because all the light angles aren't as steep, I guess, or I don't know if that makes any sense, but it seems like compact scopes, you need better quality glass to have like the same image clarity, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for us, it was kind of a trade-off of like, well, if we're already getting this level of image quality, then I don't know what else we could try to get for a bigger form factor. Maybe we'll do that at some point down the road when somebody explains to me like, what we get as a net benefit. But like right now, like, all of our lenses are 7-layer coated, and then they're, black edge or edge blackened so that there's less dispersion and all that kind of stuff. Right. So I don't know. We were really happy with the form factor, the look of it, and the combination of the optical quality. So we didn't want to change from that.
Cool.
I guess for me, well, Rick already mentioned, I have ZP5. I like very good glass, and I'm picky, just how it is. Mm-hmm. But your absolute resolution isn't the most important factor in glass quality, and even your contrast, how your colors work together. And I think for like PRS, you can get away with a fairly poor quality glass. But like a large depth of field and field of view. Those are two things you can't do without. And we're getting bigger and bigger fields of view. And usually if you're over that 1.5 meters at 100 or at 100 meters, you don't really feel restricted. But the depth of field really shows up with our 22 competitions.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about with scope length there. And in me using scopes, I haven't seen a very short optic that has a good field of view. They tend to be a little bit shorter.
You mean depth of field, John?
Depth of field. Yeah. And so that's where I'm curious that you got a 4-32. That's a big mag range to stick in. And like March, they got their compact high mag range.
Yep.
They have a poor depth of field. And so for me, you can have amazing glass quality, no depth of field. I'd like both. So did you think of depth of field when you were going at this? I guess or is that something that doesn't usually come up?
Well, depth of field is a conversation piece, but it wasn't one of our main criteria. So one of the things that we were really looking for and kind of honed in on as kind of the main items of focus for us was field of view, glass quality, and then one of the reasons why we honed in on field of view is because you need that field of view to be able to transition between targets quite quickly, right? And you're not flipping the zoom lever just as much as possible to try to find your next target. So that's kind of where that conversation is, but I haven't with any of our prototypes, I have not seen any issues with depth of field or anything like that. Like the detail level is there. You're able to see everything that you'd want to see out of the scope. So I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah. I think you'd have to look through it yourself and then tell me what you think. Honestly, I'd love your feedback on it 100%. As a ZP5 user, I'd love to know what you think of it, because we have some of our pro shooters that we're sponsoring next year that have been testing this with us that are Minox ZP5s users, and they're switching. So,
ooh, you hear that, John?
But are they? Yeah, no, I'll shut up.
So John, this
center fire. Yeah. The thing with center fire is this doesn't show up very quickly, because you're 300 to 600, 300. Well, with the Minox, you'd set it one. You never have to touch it for a match, because from 300 to 1,000 is going to be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
And with the 22, though, that is not the case. So you'll really show up with the 22 if you're running from, like, say you got a 100 to 300. I can run that with the Minox, no problem. I have another brand here that I've used, and I can run the 100 to about 220, 250. So that's where I would notice it, and I don't think it's an issue with center fire typically.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point for sure. And yeah, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Yeah. Most of us guys don't shoot rimfire, but some of us do. Yeah. And then, I'd love to definitely hear your feedback on that, and I'd be interested to know if we can make any corrections.
I'll be looking, because I really enjoy optics, so it's kind of a Now, what were you going to say, Rick?
I was going to let you know that I will leave the optic with you after the match, but I know it's got to go back.
You got to bring it by Ottawa. Come on,
it's got to go back. It's got to go back to Vanja. So when the match is over, you can put it through your paces for a few days, John, and you can.
I'll send you my address. You can send it over here after.
And then we'll have to work it out with Vanja, but
I'm sure we can make something work for you guys.
Yeah.
So I would like to see one. I would like to see one at some point. Right.
Keep in mind the ZP5 is substantially more expensive than the Apex. I'm not saying the Apex is worse, but the ZP5 is much more expensive.
Yeah.
So I think the Apex is more in line with like the Cronus and the new Minox LR, right? And like even the Mark V in the States pricing, I would say, is more of a fair comparison in terms of your money spent. Mm-hmm. I mean, this, like, let's just be honest, this isn't a ZCO level price point, right? So we have to kind of keep in mind the comparison we're going for here.
Yeah, so and that's where I was going with, where I say, like, we can look at resolution, we can look at your micro contrast and how everything works there, and we don't need that. We don't need the $4,000 optic There's other things that maybe could be had at a $2,000 price point that are good enough.
Yeah,
and that's where like your 15 mil turrets. I really like seeing that in a cheap scope, and
this is John's cheap scope.
Yeah,
hey, John, I don't know if you know this, but some guys will never be able to spend that much on an optic.
Yeah, I know. But we see that in your $4,000 scopes, right?
Well, exactly. So
where is it in the 2,000? It isn't there.
Yeah, well, for sure. So our goal has always been not just optically, but from a features level, compete with the 4,000, 4,500 and higher scope, but to give it to the customer for that 2,100 or so mark. Obviously, the final price is still to be determined, but the pre-order price is 1,900 right now. So if you want to take advantage of that and go for it, I mean, that's a substantial discount over what we're going to be charging once this thing is in full release. But honestly, like I think we're very comfortable putting up aside the Mark V and the ZP5 and pretty much anything else you want to throw against it. We're very happy to do it. And obviously, like you said, there's going to be a market for people who are going to want it, that top tier, no matter what it costs, $4,500 to $6,500 range. We can't convince people to not do that, right? But I mean, we want to give people an option like, hey, if you want to save some money, and especially in centerfire, ammo is expensive, and maybe some other gear, maybe some new rear bags and a pump pillow and whatever else you want. Skypod, new triple pull.
What's the warranty like? Just because I know everyone likes to talk warranty, and obviously a good scope usually you don't have to use it. But are we talking like everything's covered for life? Is it interchangeable if you sell it? Like what's the deal with that?
Honestly, the way that we approach warranty is more or less in line with everybody else. Full lifetime warranty. I know we're a new company, so we've made deals and arrangements with our factory that they will warranty this, even if we're not here for whatever reason in 10 years. But we intend to stick around for a long, long time. And so this is obviously our first entrant into the market. But full lifetime warranty. The only things that we don't cover are really like intentional damage or things like if you smash the glass or whatever, right? Like, obviously it's not a manufacturing issue, but we'll take care of customers. We'll repair it for whatever our cost is. We're not looking to make profit on warranty claims. The biggest thing for us is we'll pay for shipping both ways. We'll take care of the customer. If there's something wrong, if you're not happy with it, send it back to us. We'll give you a full refund too. That's if you don't want it and you're like, no, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I want my money back. No problem. We'll take care of it, right? Like we're more than happy to do that. If it's all scratched up, if it's dinged up, if you obviously dropped it in the curb and now there's a big dent in the bell housing, well,
right?
Or if it burns up in a fire, because the famous warranty that you see at Cabela's, those displays where something burned down a fire and they were sent them a new pair of binos. We can't do that, unfortunately, yet. Maybe in the future we can do that. But obviously that's what insurance is for. So hopefully you can handle through that.
Yeah, fair.
I have a question. I recently got the Cronus, which is a pretty great scope, and I was interested in getting the 3-18 in the Aries, but I didn't do it for one reason: is it's the same reticle. What I wanted was, and this may be more specific to Rimfire PRS, but very few of us run anything more than, I'd say the average guy runs 10 mag to 16. So I don't see value in that higher magnification. I mean, it's great when you're trying to check your zero or the odd KYL, but it'd be nice to have a reticle that's more usable in that lower range. Obviously, you can't have that reticle usable, like if it's going to be usable at 30, then at 10, this is not for the same scope. But would you consider adding a model, maybe adding extra features to that lower magnification hunting one you were talking about, that would give you the same CLR, the same I keep calling it clear, but the CLR reticle, but usable at 12
so like
hours.
a thicker line thickness is
it needs to be thicker so we can read it, basically.
Yeah, so the two things on that. One, on the 3-15, we're actually just seriously considering throwing this reticle in there. So that might, so we're like, I can use that for hunting all day long. That's fine. I have no issue with that. It'll obviously just be a scaled in to fit the magnification range. But And then we'll do probably a little bit thicker lines on the main stadia just to make it a little bit more useful at that 3x, right? One of the things that we're also looking at is actually scaling in this one. So one of the things that we're submitting back to the factory on feedback from us is testing has kind of shown that at that 12x, which is where most guys like to shoot, I think. Personally, I'm in the 12 to 14 range usually. I don't go much past that when I'm shooting PRS style competitions. So for me, we're actually going to be doing is scaling that reticle in a little bit more by about 10%. So you have at the 32x, it shrinks down a little bit, but so right now it's a 5 3/4, or it might just be at the 5 windage marks and 5 on the elevation. That's about what you'll get at the full mag, and then it'll be more useful at the 10 to 16, 18 range, so it'll be a little bit larger. So that's probably the one major adjustment that we're making on the reticle for the production run.
Oh, that'd be awesome. So basically that means that, like for example, if I'm dialing for a stage, I'll be on that 12 to 15 type. But if I need to hold in order to see these little lines at the 0.2 hash marks, I basically have to be a little above 16 to really be able to see it. Part of it is just my eyes, but when I looked at that 3 to 18 with the APRS 6 reticle, I was really expecting to have the blown up version, and I thought it'd be quite usable between 10x and 18. But the reality is I would basically have to use this scope all the way dialed up to be able to see and hold. So keep that in mind
for sure.
But I think
So the reticle in here, your line thickness, I believe you said was 0.035 mils.
The line thickness on the stadia?
Yes.
Let me double check that, actually. I'm not sure.
Because I know it doesn't show it on the website. I don't believe.
Let me pull up the diagram here. Just give me a second.
While you're doing that, is the entire thing illuminated for the illumination?
No. So what it shows on the website is just the main vertical and horizontal are illuminated, as well as the center dot. Because we decided to do that on purpose. Yeah.
Let me just bring that up. So this is the 16x. I don't know if it comes through in terms of the illumination.
Yeah, it does. You can see it's just the
main.
Yeah, just
main
the
T
axis there. Yeah. And is that a 1 or 2 mil hold under? It's a 1 mil.
1.
Okay. Yeah, I like keeping the top portion of the reticle kind of sterile like that personally, just for your sight picture. I quite like it.
Yeah, we try to keep it as clean as possible for that reason. And then a lot of guys really, especially in the PRS game, if you're shooting anything over probably 700-800 yards, that you want to see that trace and you want to see flash as well, right? So that's something that was definitely top of mind when we were designing the reticle. Just keep it as open as possible, and then you give yourself that 1 mil hold under if you need it on the top side. And we try to actually make it a little bit thinner, just for that purpose. So let me just trying to find this bad boy here. I mean, when you need it in the pinch, right, it's never that easy to find. So the main lines are 0.03 mil.
0.03, yeah. Because you're typically seeing like the 0.025.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers are going with. The ZP5 is 0.035, which is one of the reasons I actually like it. And I actually have an IOR as well, and those run what some people consider fat lines, but it's usable. I can run that at 6x. I can use my reticle, and I wish there was. I'm on Thomas's side there. I often run 15 probably with competing, but I would like to see something in the 0.045, somewhere in that neck of the woods. I think, particularly with a 3 to 15.
Yeah.
John, do you know what line thickness USO uses? Because I feel like their reticles are really fat.
Yes, they run
because I borrowed a TS 2020, I think, and the first thing I noticed, when I looked at it, I was like, Jesus, this reticle is like, like a sausage.
Yes. I forget.
But it's fat.
I had asked that
really
question,
fat.
and that's one of the things I love about the JVC reticle.
Oh yeah, okay. JVCR. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because it's thick, it's distinct.
Yeah.
You know,
I would trade off the 0.2 mil hash marks for 0.25 with something a little bit thicker that can be used in the 12 to 15 power. Happily.
but you wouldn't have to go significantly thicker than what you have in yours, Thomas, because that's a 0.025.
I'd have to check to be sure.
It is like Vortex Athlon. That's what they use.
Okay.
So you go to a 0.035 like the Minox. It's a distinct difference, and this will be in between. You will see the difference. And the Minox, if it just be a little bit better. I'm kind of like I got my own personal problem.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of people. There's also a lot of people that hate thick lines because they feel like it covers too much of the target and stuff like that. Like people are very opinionated about reticles.
Yeah.
So you can't tailor to every single shooter out there. Right?
We try to
Set
set
like
the difference
you
as
said,
much as
like
possible.
reticle
Yeah.
is the most important thing.
I agree.
100%. It's we call it the guidance system for your rifle, right? Like you need to be, it needs to be usable. It needs to have all the right features, and it needs to be not too thick and not too thin, and the Goldilocks zone for reticles, right?
Yeah.
And not too busy. I looked through a horse tremor once.
Oh yeah.
There's too much information in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Oh, Ed, yes, we will. We're actually going to be at SHOT Show. We're not exhibiting this year because it was not fast enough of a turnaround for us to have a booth ready in time. But we did have some opportunities there. But we will be at SHOT Show. We'll be on the floor. And we're actually working with a couple of Canadian exhibitors that might have our scopes on their rifles at SHOT.
Cool. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
so
big.
pretty
Being at
exciting.
SHOT
It's
Show's
huge.
big, man. Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, feel free to give us the details once you finalize where y'all are going to be. So in case folks want to pass by.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We will do. And we'll have we're just working on some press releases and that kind of stuff for when things are finalized, but it'll be definitely, we'll put it on Facebook and we'll let you guys know as well.
Perfect.
Can I,
Awesome.
just because I saw Jonathan Ocab's name there, I know this is something he's very strongly opinionated on. Is the magnification and parallax adjustments smooth? Because some of these scopes are just all stiff as heck. Like today I was shooting with Thomas's, not to bash on your Cronus there.
No,
but I went to adjust the parallax. I was like, Jesus, this thing's stuck. Like, granted, it was
well, let me tell you about your Minox that I tried this afternoon. No.
So, like, are you paying close attention to those tolerances? Because I know some, like Vortex, for example, like they're lower end models. Some will have a pretty nice mag ring, and the other one will just be like, you gotta beat it, to the other side. So.
Yeah. So for us, it was a balance between usability. So how easily can you turn it and without having to rip your hands apart, gripping it. And then also one of the main things that's actually the resistance factor is there are the O-rings, right?
Yeah.
So the O-rings are very important for the durability and lifetime of the scope. But if you put too thick of an O-ring or too big, you're going to have usability issues potentially. So we try to strike a nice balance. And for us, this thing turns really easy, right? Like
nice.
I don't know, there's not a lot of thing, but it's not mushy. It's not like there's no resistance. There's definitely resistance there. And then the throw lever itself also allows you to have a little bit of anchoring to it as well.
And being a Canadian company, I have to ask this. Have you probably not yet, but have you tested this in like cold weather? Because I noticed like it doesn't matter what optic it is, in like sub-zero temperatures, that magnification ring almost becomes unusable, right? And I sometimes for matches, I'll set it to whatever 14 times power for the match, because I know if it's a winter match, I'm not going to be able to really move it afterwards.
Being in Calgary and being close to the mountains, we've taken this thing all through December, January, February, and the minus 35, minus 40. We're freezing our butts off. I actually I had it on my hunting rifle for most of last season, one of the early prototypes, and I had no trouble with it because hunting, I had it between 4 and kind of 6, 7 most times, and I was kind of flipping back and forth if I was looking through it. But honestly, we haven't had any issues with that, so we don't anticipate that being a problem. That's one of our kind of things as a Canadian company. We want to make sure that you can pull it out of the ice block and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the temperature ranges we deal with here in this country are insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
it definitely puts the gear to the test.
And speaking of kind of the plethora of different scenarios that we have. I mean, we ran this thing in that super, super fine dust all summer long, and all the matches in the prairies that we did. And then BC, we had, when we were testing this thing throughout the summer, we were out in the rain, no issues whatsoever. So this thing is bulletproof in our minds anyway.
And I honestly, like, I don't have any fear your scope's going to fail, because the manufacturers that are producing scopes for people have a good track record. It's not like you're going out and just it's some random hodgepodge of parts. So I don't believe you have to have any fear in that. And I don't think other people have to either.
Yeah, for sure. And that was intentional. Yeah.
Right?
I appreciate it. Yeah. No, for sure. That's a great point, because I mean, it's not like we just all of a sudden decided to invest $20 million in a factory of our own with tooling and CNC machines and all the different tanks for anodizing and all that stuff, right? Like, we thought about it, but we don't have that kind of money laying around, and that's a big, big risk, right? I think it's a little bit of a lesser risk to go, okay, make this to our spec, send it to us, let's approve it, let's work with it, right? And I think that's probably the more fiscally prudent thing to do. But yeah, you're right. So we decided to work with guys that had proven track records in delivering super high quality scopes, right? So that was one of the reasons why we decided to go that route.
Yeah, it's cool you got to spec it out yourself, because that reticle looks really promising, especially those 0.5 mil dots. I quite like that as well.
Thanks. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, every single piece of the scope was designed and deliberately chosen. Like we could have had the option. I was talking to Rick about this when we were meeting up. You know, we had the option of working with a bunch of manufacturers, and they're all like, "Hey, OEM means slap your logo on the side of this thing. We'll just print whatever name, and you know, it'll come in a carton box that's unmarked." And I'm like, well, we don't want that. Like, we want a product, you know, we want our own thing that we designed from the ground up. So we decided to go the ODM route, which is kind of original design manufacturing, instead of just like, hey, slap our Apex logo on here and put some text for this standard mag range thing that you have. And we spent countless nights working on every single little detail on this thing. Like the knurling went through like 17 iterations of knurling and 3D printed parts, like right here, right? So I have all that stuff here, and obviously, coincidentally, that thing comes out. But but yeah, no, my 3D printer is retired until we work on the next model, because I'm done with that for now, and then I'll print off some more parts once they get sent to me. But you know, we went through that process intentionally because we wanted it to be our product and not just somebody else's rebranded thing. And we could have been to market like 8 months ago if we did that. So yeah, we take a lot of pride in this thing just because it's been a lot of work. It's been over a year of R&D and testing, and yeah, we're pretty proud of it, and hopefully other people like it. And the response, honestly, from the shooting community has been amazing so far. So we love it.
I think it's interesting. We got a Canadian option under $6,000 now, and that's going to definitely appeal to people, I think. Especially, you know, you're talking about the gap in the price point, and I think it's interesting that you brought that up, because that's something I've thought of an awful lot. Because you have guys, they come, well, what should we buy to start out? And well, you know, you could buy the Diamondback Tactical, right? But you're never. Seldom are guys going to stay there. They always want to progress, right?
That's the scope that I was talking about. I started out with, so yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so then you can go up. You know, you're in your $1,000 range, and then you could jump up to the $2,500 range or the you know, I say you don't really need that, but there's a big gap in there where there's 15 mil turrets, your 56 mil objective, bigger field of view. You know, we have some of that in the $1,000 range with
Strike Eagle
now, like the Strike Eagle. Athlon has theirs, like, you know,
but
it's still just shoot, that's gonna sound really bad, but anyway. So I like that there's, you know, a middle stepping ground that's, you know, a reasonable stopping point, in all honesty, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of that's exactly our mindset when we were making this thing, is like, there has to be somewhere in the middle where you want that, you know, next step up from that $1,000 to $1,200 range up to the next level in our minds of kind of features and optical quality and everything else that comes along with it. And for us, this was a purpose-built competition in long-range optic. Like, there's no doubt that that's where we come from, and that's our background, and that's what we wanted to make, and because we thought that that's what we want to use, right?
So no orange ring on the hunting version?
Yeah, there'll be an orange ring on the hunting version. It's our signature look now. We can't get away from it, unfortunately, right?
Do you guys plan to do any mounting solutions like rings and mounts or?
Yeah, we plan to offer that. So we're partnering up with, most likely, like we're in talks still, but we're going to partner up with a well-known Canadian manufacturer for the most part, and offer.
Gee, I wonder who that is.
Yeah, we're still working through the details on that, but we're probably going to do one-piece mounts as a starting point, and then
which is interesting because they already have their own one-piece mounts, right?
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. No need to reinvent the wheel from our perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that scope hits a sweet spot because obviously, if you've got a $3,000 rifle, Voodoo's, Rimax, Deuce, it makes sense to put
a $3,000 optic on it.
Yeah, $4,000 or $5,000 optics on top. But if you're going to be just as competitive with your MTR, CZ-MTR dropped into an ACC chassis, and then you balance this out with a $2,000 optics, that's a sweet spot. And obviously if you're dabbling in this and you want to know if PRS is for you, yeah, absolutely, the B22 with the Diamondback is the way to go. But if you're pretty sure that investment is not too crazy and it shoots you right up to the top, like you're going to be just as competitive as anybody else out there. Because I think the return on extra dollars past that point, it's diminishing return a little. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, somebody always says to us, well, we got a lot of like tangent theta comparisons just because Canadian company, right? So, and then we're like, well, that's not necessarily a fair comparison for us because they're Canadian made 100% in-house, right? Whatever else, I'm not sure where they get their lenses from or where they grind them. They might be in-house too. I'm not 100% sure on that, but regardless, like it's an entirely different price bracket that we're trying to play in. And that was purposeful for us too. It's like, yeah, we could have gone out and said, hey, Zeiss or whoever, can you make us a $7,000 optic? I'm sure they would, but maybe we can do that in the future. But really, it was about being intentionally accessible.
Yeah, and that is wise. You can't build for a market that is this big. Yeah, you got to build for a market that's large and missing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, for sure. And that's exactly kind of what we try to do. But, and that's the thing. It's like, what's the incremental difference between us and a $6,000 optic? If we're 90% there, do we consider that a win? I would say probably, yeah, or 95% there. And, from a turret perspective, I would put our feel up against pretty much anybody in the industry. And that was by design. We try to make them positive and not mushy. There's no play, very loud clicks so you can hear it. Exactly when you're making those changes. So that's not a shot at anybody. It's just more so like, hey, this is what we decided to do on purpose, right?
But that is very important, especially with a 15 mil rev, because the clicks are spaced closer together.
They're that much closer, right?
Exactly.
100%. Yeah, like 50%, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. You have 50% more of them than a usual turret, and if they're mushy, they're just going to mush together, and it's not going to feel great. So,
yeah.
No, I am looking forward to seeing it, and all honesty, if it's in the Athlon Cronus Razor level of glass and broad strokes, that's good.
I'll bet you $100 it's better than the Razor.
That shouldn't be very hard to do. Yeah. And that's all you need. That's very, very good. Like very, very good.
Yeah, I'd say that we're very comfortable saying that it will exceed that.
Yeah.
Performance of the glass you just mentioned. Yeah.
Well, that's not.
Thomas is ordering it right now.
I'm literally filling out the form.
I can tell Thomas is sending it to his card.
No, Thomas, like I remember like 4 or 5 episodes where you promised
Rick,
you weren't gonna buy one more, right? And every time next episode, hey, guess what? That's all right. That's all right. There's nothing wrong
You
with that.
didn't stop by Ottawa.
No,
You're back at
I
home?
just I had to get home. I had to get home.
I blew my budget for this year, so I won't be buying one now.
Oh, really, John? How surprising!
Yeah, John, I will trade one of your crappy ZP5s for the dollar value of an Apex rival, just to make it happen for you.
Yeah,
I would do that for you.
Stay calm. I'll stay calm in that consideration for now.
Like, why would you change? Why would you change though, John?
I'd have no reason to change unless I really like the reticle, because the reticle is extreme. Like, I rate a reticle as the most important feature on a scope, honestly, and that's why I'm thinking about the line thickness.
Mhm.
But I would like to see it because I have one of my friends. He's wanting to set up a rifle for next year. He's not willing to put 8-10 grand into a setup, right? Well, what is the most he can get for the least? He shouldn't buy a ZP5. I don't want him to. It's a waste of money.
Yeah.
But I like him because that little bit. Oh, sure, I'll take that little bit for the cost. But most people, it's a foolish decision. That's why I'm excited to see it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's always a cost consideration in everything you do. There has to be a cost benefit no matter what, right? And that's where I came from when I was building my second setup, right? I blew a bunch of money on my first setup. I was like, well, I knew no matter what I go with, the ACC chassis is going to stay. No matter what I do, I've got my SkyPod. Great. So that's an investment, right? And then the same thing with pretty much everything else. I had my Trigger Tech trigger, so I kept that. And then I invested in a new Insight Heathen brake and whatever else with my barreled action. But I was like, this is the amount of money that I'm putting into this thing.
Right.
And then I didn't want to just, blow another $4 or $5 grand on an optic, because I was like, I like this, but I don't know if I like it this much. And I can only justify so much with the sport with the wife too, right? So it's
so with the money you save, Van, you can get a Ultimatum Deuce and an IBI barrel.
That's the next on the list for sure.
And play in the Rimfire game.
Yeah.
What caliber do you shoot for your centerfire PRS?
6mm Creedmoor.
Cool.
Yeah, I started with when I built the Rem 700 barreled action system. It was a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I liked it. It was great. Then I was like, if I can go down to the 6mm, because that's the new sexy diameter for everything in PRS. So I got convinced to go the 6mm route, and I haven't looked back. It's a great little cartridge.
Well, 6 GT is the new
is
the new kid on the block, so you're gonna need a new rifle for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, 6 GT, 6XC, and now the Hornady announced that they're making the 6 GT factory ammo effectively for them, right? It's even that much easier. So
cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. So yeah, I'm definitely probably gonna have a Rimfire competition rifle for next season.
There you go. Yeah, it's going to be bigger and better. There'll be more opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
So for me, looking at it, one thing I would suggest is your numbers on the turrets, the top ones being larger, and 3 reasons probably. But in a competition, it's time. You're going fast. 10mm turrets, it's automatic math. You don't even have to do math. But with 15mm, you have to do math or see your numbers, and that's exactly where your fingers are grabbing on the turrets. So the numbers will be very easy to cover.
Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm trying to say?
100%. Yeah. So we're actually making an adjustment for that as well. So in the first production run of this, the numbers, like the bottom numbers, are probably the most prominent, right? And then the main numbers, and then the top level numbers are going to be a little bit bigger in the next one. So we're going to shrink the other ones down by about, I don't know, probably like 8 to 10%, and make the top numbers bigger by that amount. So we should
still be balanced.
They're still yeah.
When I found out it was 15 mils per rev, I sort of sent that back to Matt and said, "Oh, this is a weird choice." Like after the Diamondback and the 6 rev per revolution, I am like scarred. I cannot do that kind of math on the clock. I mess that up so often. But Matt made a good point, is that 15 mil during a match, you're not going to pass that too often. I mean, for our Rimfire matches, you've got a handful of targets past 300, but everything will be within the vast majority will be within that first revolution. So,
yeah, it's quick to dial. It just goes zoop, you know. And,
so that makes it even easier at that point, because it's going to be 1 to 15, and then you don't even have to think, oh, I'm on my second rev, I'm coming back to the first rev, which you still do a fair amount with the 10 mil per rev. So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's definitely a huge plus.
Yeah, and the same logic applies to centerfire for the most part, right? So in Rimfire and ELR, which is the other kind of element for the other kind of potential market for this scope, some guys are planning on using it for ELR next year. You'll probably go into that second rev for ELR for sure, right? And for Rimfire, but for centerfire PRS matches where you're shooting out to 1200, I mean, most cartridges you don't have to go past 10, right? For the most part, like sometimes 12 in the extreme, but not really if it's like a slow moving thing. But for my 6 mil Creed, I think the most I ever dialed was like 8.5 last year for like a 1200 or 1300 yard shot. So, there's definitely
we would see 12, 13. That would be common. You'd hit the 12s.
Yeah. In the NRS finale, in the 20 stages we shot, I think there was only 2 targets that I had to dial more than 15 mils anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Because 13 will take you to 300.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Warm weather. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to look at this scope on the weekend. That's all I can say.
That's good. No, I'm glad you guys are excited, and I'm glad we were able to get one in time for you guys to take a look at it for sure.
Yeah, thanks for bending over backwards and making the magic happen, Vanja. Appreciate it. A lot of guys are really excited.
I was on the factory for like 3 weeks straight, like every single day, emailing them and calling them. No joke. This was me. I'm like, guys, there are very important deadlines that I need to hit here, and they got it to me the Friday before the weekend. So this last Friday was the first that we ever got our hands on them.
That's awesome.
I'm like, this needs to happen right now. Let's go.
Yeah, timing worked out perfectly.
Perfect. Yeah. Now, if those hats would have just come in, that would have been even better. But
you got to save something for next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think somebody asked when they'll be available, but so we're actually planning to ship end of January 2022. Okay. So they're going to be in production here starting in the next couple of weeks. So the production run will start hopefully by December, and then they'll be ready and in our hands by mid-January. And assuming that there are no delays with shipping, because everybody knows what the shipping situation is like, we're battling through that right now. But worst case scenario, it'll be Q1 this next year anyway, so it'll be well before any season starts. But we hope to have it in everybody's hands by February, shipped and delivered to your door.
Yeah, we start February, probably the earliest match. It could be a Frozen Fingers match, February, March maybe.
You guys
the Outlaw Series runs all year round at Stittsville.
That's right.
Not like those weak people in the rest of the country. I think Stittsville's the only one that shoots January.
What kind of temperatures are you guys shooting in?
All of it.
Any temperature, whatever it gives us.
-20. I've seen -20.
Yeah, a few times for sure.
I was a question on, is Apex doing any QC in Canada? Yes. I'm assuming like post receipt. Yeah.
Yeah. So they get QC. There's like a three-stage QC at the factory. So we paid extra for that. So they basically will typically do like a 10% or 15% of full run QC. So we're doing 100% out of the factory.
Nice.
And then once it gets here to us, we have all the QA QC equipment in-house, the same stuff that they have in the factory. And so we're doing our own. As we get it, we get inspect 100% of the units as well before they get put on the shelf, ready to ship to customers. So we're doing that, the collimator and the electrodiopter and all that inspection, which allows us to do that full tracking test, make sure that everything's still good to go, survive the trip over.
Nice. Looks like Kareem is going to have a Delta Striker on the Canadian Gun Nuts exchange.
Yeah, so he can pay for his Apex.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can tell guys are already excited about this. I know 4 guys that's already pre-ordered it now.
Yeah, you're killing everybody, Vanja. Everybody in Canada has already said, I'm not buying any more optics this year, right? Yeah. And what do? You bring out something that makes people want to buy more optics this year.
Well,
right,
they're
Thomas?
like... Yeah, well, it's like what do they say? Like the gun hobby is like tattoos; you can never just have one, right? So it's the same thing. I don't have any tattoos personally myself. I don't know if that's an overshare or not, but
you should get the Apex logo on your chest.
Oh, that's commitment. Yeah,
You really want to dedicate yourself to the cause.
It's for
Like
when
a
I'm at
little
the pool
Superman
in
thing.
Vegas, right?
Yeah, exactly.
when you sell 1,000 units, you got to get the Apex tattoo.
Okay, we'll think about that for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, sounds good, man. I mean, it's great having. I mean, for me, it was when I sat down with you and kind of chatted about kind of how you got into it, why you got into it, and kind of the process you went through. I think that's really what folks want to hear, and it's a good it's a good approach. I think it's the approach I think most guys want people to take when they're building an optic. It's not what can I the Me Too play. I just want something to offer. I want to fill a product line as opposed to building a product that they can be proud of, not stand behind, but be proud of. And I think that's why I liked what I heard. So and I liked what I saw, and the model I've got. The turrets are so much even nicer than the one that I tried out in the parking lot. So
Yeah.
The minute I started spinning, I said, I got to record this because it feels just right to me.
Thanks. Yeah, no, that definitely was an improvement over the first couple prototypes. So the one that's the one that I was shooting, the one that I showed you at most of the season. And yeah, that was one of the things that I noticed as well as playing with it. I was like, that was one of the first sets of feedbacks. Like, we got to make these a little bit tighter. And that's what we ended up doing for the final run. So.
It's a very interesting conversation because, here I obsess over the reticle, right? And then Rick's like, oh, these turrets are, and I'm like, turrets? Do they spin? Do they got marks on them?
Yeah.
Do they work?
I'm all about the reticle also.
But it's also it's what you touch all the time. That's the thing. It's
I understand. It's just interesting how we have our different things
And I don't do as much holdover as you guys. That's why, because I spin more than you guys do. That's why. Like, I don't need to see it because center dot is center dot, man. I just crank it up.
Yeah, actually, I don't do holdovers, and that's why I like the 15 mils on the turret so much. Yeah.
That's it. And again,
jury's still undecided for me whether I hold or dial. I go through phases. We'll see what settles someday.
I'm personally weird that way. I'll dial sometimes for certain stages and hold over for others, right? It's just I'll just make the choice based on like what I see people are doing or what I think I'll screw up the least. That's basically my calculation.
In other words, dial.
Yeah. Most time. And some guys see me dialing wind, they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like,
yeah, that's funny.
So speaking of that, locking windage turret, I would favor that. I've never had a windage turret move. But the Minox have a fairly stiff windage turret. But
yeah, I would say for a PRS scope, especially, like, why not have it locking if you could?
Yeah, but I'm capping it. I'm not really. I wouldn't say so.
Yeah,
I go either way. I mean, I've never had it spun.
It doesn't bother me that it's not locking, but if it's locking, like, I would, probably take that.
But a locking elevation one.
But it's not
elevation. Don't put a locking elevation on it.
It's not a buy no buy decision though.
It's not
the windage.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
But like I've spun elevation turrets. I've got one scope that's got a really loose elevation knob, not knob, but elevator, and that just
windage or elevation.
Elevation.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we kind of battled over as well, is like, making it a locking turret makes it more expensive, and it's not huge, it's incremental, but we're like, is that an important feature for this? We're like, not really. And plus they're stiff enough that they're just not going to move on their own. Yeah. Like I had an early prototype of this with a little bit looser, a little less clicky, I guess, version of the knobs. And I had it on my hunting rifle, like I mentioned last year. And I would hike through that thing. And I had it in my setup where my forearm, I don't know if you guys ever seen one of those carriers where you strap it to your pack and then it goes through your arm underneath here. And I have my walking sticks on, and I would be rubbing that thing with my elbow all the time, and it didn't move a single time on the windage. So that, to me, like, okay, that kind of cemented in my mind, like, because we were having that debate around that time, like, do we do locking? What do we do? I'm like, just make them stiffer, right? So
that's one thing I've noticed, guys with locking turrets, and they'll bump them in a match. Like when they go and grab to actually turn, they'll push it down and then it catches. Then they got to pull it up. And for PRS, I don't think there's any benefit. It's more of a negative.
Yeah,
it's also one more moving part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's another point of failure potentially, right? Or so some dust gets in or whatever, or who knows, right? So
yeah. Maybe in a hunting optic, there would be consideration for something different. But
yeah, for sure. For the hunting optic, it's definitely going to be something that I'd say it's 90% certain that we're going to have a locking windage turret in there and probably elevation as well. But we'll see. We haven't quite decided 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys have a tentative timeline for that next optic? Is that going to be a year from now again?
It's probably going to be. I mean, we're hoping to have the hunting optic out in the summer. So before hunting season. That's kind of, it's a little bit aggressive right now with the development cycles that they're a little bit more extended than they usually were, from what I understand anyway. So what used to be like a 90 to 120 day development cycle is now probably close to double that. So we're in the early phases, but we're hoping to have it out in the summer.
Nice.
Next time you hit the market research part of the cycle, I've struggled finding a scope for my son, who's a skinny 9-year-old. Everything's kind of heavy. I built a rifle for him that's as light as possible. But then in order to get a decent scope on it, you have to put a fair amount of weight, and also there's too many knobs on it, right? He never dials, he only holds. So really, I'd be interested in seeing a fixed power with a good reticle on it. That the trade-off is cost, right? Less moving parts and all this stuff. Obviously, you need the parallax, but other than that, something fixed powered with a good reticle on it, and
that might be too niche. That might be
that's
the market
exactly.
for a small company, though.
That's what I was saying, like the market research part, right? Maybe that's just me, but
you guys keep coming with the ideas. We'll take it all under his advisement, 100%.
It's the Thomas research part.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but maybe you can take that feedback, and when you reach the point where you're doing that low power variable optic, that's some feedback you could put into, because that's the price range might fit. It's got, if you put a proper reticle on it, I think it could be very usable. Athlon got pretty close with the Helos.
Yeah, the 2 to 12.
Yeah, but I thought that reticle wasn't intuitive enough for Jeremy to use. You need something pretty simple. So,
I mean, the two things I'm looking forward to. So like 1 to 10 or 1 to 12 would be perfect for the X22, but also potentially if it's light enough, it goes into the sniper series, kind of like the field matches, because that's the next wave of builds we're doing is the ultralight rigs, right? So we'll have kind of the MDT Hunter Carbon 26 with a deuce and whatever IBI magic we can whip up. That'll be a hopefully to be 8-pound rifle. Basically a third of the current rig. Because after lugging that 22-pound rifle for 2 days, it gets heavy, man. And and that was a short course. It was only probably 5K total. But as we start extending it, then the ultralights and a 1 to 12 LPVO in a nice light, usable, good reticle, maybe a little bit bigger for fast acquisition. That would be pretty sweet.
I do think
it'd be very difficult design to have something you could use at the 1.
Yeah.
And yet be a good 12 power
target reticle. I think that's why a lot of LPVO reticles are so kind of tactical oriented, if you will. Like it has to function as a red dot at the 1 times power. So it's like the balance again, right? It's hard to design that.
100%. And we struggle with that too, because one of the things that we're looking at is the reticle design for that 1 to 10, and it's hard to strike that balance. Yeah. So we're coming up with a couple of things that we think will work. So we can't talk about it just yet, but
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we're definitely looking in that space for sure.
Because we'd use that optic at 10 to 15 meters against steel, right up close in semi-auto steel challenge, and then take it out to 300 in the very next stage, right? Which is awesome. So if you could crack that nut, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. So
And
we're all about solving the problems, right?
yeah.
So you have seen where they've done the dual, and you've got your reticle on the second and your reticle on the first. Your second doesn't change, which is going to give you your 1 times usable red
Yeah.
dot. But then as
Right.
you zoom in, it's not going to grow an obscure field of view. But that has a cost attached to it, obviously, too.
Yeah.
One thing I have wondered about is doing a 1 to 10 with or a 1 to 12, whatever. 1 to 10 probably, because I don't know of anything that goes with a 12 times factor. But then having illumination for a dot that is not actually visible, same as your red dot or your halos,
Right.
so you wouldn't obstruct any field of view when you're running in that say 7 to 10. But when you get down that 1 and 2, you could turn your illumination on, and who cares if the reticle got too small, because you're actually going to be using your red dot.
Exactly.
But I don't know if that's possible in something like a scope, because everyone who's done the 2 focal planes, like the double reticle, it's always been visible without illumination.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
food for thought. Yeah, we've talked about the dual focal plane reticle system, and it's so tricky to do.
Cost inhibitive.
The cost not so much. It's more from an engineering technical perspective, right? So it's more like trying to make the perfect marriage of a first and second focal plane. We spent like a month talking about it with our engineers, and it's just like trying to find that balance proves elusive. But we're not against it. It's hard.
Just bolt on a second tube.
None of those scopes are even remotely cheap.
Sorry?
None of the optics that they've done that are even remotely cheap. Like they're not even budget friendly in any sort.
Yeah, but that's what Apex is all about, though, solving that budget issue, right? Yeah. It's having everything at a price we can all afford. That's But again, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's was there a big enough market to justify thinking about this long and hard?
Yeah.
But now we're getting to that point where that would be my perfect hunting rifle. That'd be all around truck gun, by the bedside door rifle, whatever.
Speaking of product development, just keep this in mind. There's not many binoculars that have a reticle in it. Just putting that out there.
so everybody gets one wish, Vanya. So you heard mine. Now you got Matt. You got Thomas's fixed power. John's want that big thick behind there.
I'm taking notes as we're talking. Yeah.
But if you look for binoculars with reticles in it, there's not many options at all, right?
So give me your best elevator pitch on why. Why do you want it?
Well, first off, do you plan to make binoculars, or are they always going to be like range finding binos? Like
no. We're looking for like a field bino, like a hunting bino, effectively as well. So something relatively lightweight, like 10 by 42. Nice. Potentially, right? So, but also in like a ruggedized external frame and something that made to our spec. But that's under consideration as well. So I'm not sure which one we're going to do first. The range finding bino is more complicated inherently because you also have to come out with either applied ballistics built in or something with Bluetooth or both, right? And then you have to do app development as well at the same time. So we're trying to limit our scope.
I mean, range finding is already one big step because. So like the next few years, the NRL Hunter Series or the Sniper Series matches are only going to get more and more popular. So right now we had one this year, but we're going to be hitting that harder next year when the ranges open up. And the format is, for me, I love that format. I find it more fun because it's more raw and more rugged and more natural. Right. So that's going to continue to explode. And for there, it's about, find it, rage it, engage it. So yeah, the AB would help, but having a bino to spot and range already eliminates one extra step. Right.
Yeah.
Then, for that guys that can afford it, then you can throw the AB on as whatever $500, $700, $800 option that is with a Bluetooth. So you can sneak up to it and still, because there's only 2 or 3 players in the market that do it and do it well. Right. So
yeah, 100%.
I'll take a stab at the value of having mill reticle in your binos, and basically for PRS, I mean, first of all, movers, right? If you want to, if you're using a Kestrel or an app where you need to measure a certain distance and the time in between, so that's one. Second is the best thing you can do while you're not shooting is looking at the targets through glass, right? And you want the magnification of that binos to be as close as possible to what you're going to start your stage on. So 10, 12, 15, that kind of, because then what you see is going to look very similar to what it looks like when you get on your scope. Most matches don't allow you to look through your scope before the stage. So if your binos are close, then that's it. And the reason why I would want the mill in there is to be able to start working out my wind brackets. All right, so target 1 is, 0.8 mil wide. I'm thinking I've got about 0.3 or 0.5 of wind. I can start. I'm not fast like John. I can't do this in the 2 minutes. I have to do this before the stage.
Yeah.
So I think that binos with well, if I didn't buy a scope tonight, that was probably going to be my next purchase.
I did have somebody from my team text me. He's like, "Yeah, no, he did pre-order."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
On the reticle,
Sean Margin.
Sorry, John, what did you say?
I just wondered if you were done your.
Yeah.
So on the reticle, I have the Minox range-finding binoculars because it does not have applied ballistics. It's a straight binoculars with a rangefinder. I didn't want that extra. I don't want to pay for that. I'd rather pay for better glass. And so the little reticle, hardly a reticle, but we'll call it that. I scaled out to see what size my cross is, so I can actually use that to get an idea of how many miles per hour of wind I can place on a target. So forget about the reticle, but put in your reticle that's actually used for range finding. Have that to be set dimensions. So I can look through it. I can use it for spotting. I have actually used binoculars a little bit looking around with the reticle in it. I don't actually like, if you're hunting and spotting, scanning, I don't think you'd like it. But I can always click the button then, and my little illuminated reticle pops up, and all it has to be is.
So if it's like a mil wide, then you can use that to gauge everything else.
Well, at 10 times, you're not going to have more than a half mil increments.
Right.
So if maybe your cross is going to be like 1 mil long, but then you'd have a half mil, so you'd have half in 1 mil. I don't know what I've not put any thought into what would be the ideal smallest size that would work. But I would actually favor something in the illumination, because when I'm just watching trace and stuff like that, I don't want the reticle in the way.
That's a good point.
But or just make the reticle kind of bare minimum, like just have an X, Y, just like 2 mils of each, so it's not like a big Christmas tree in your face. Have it,
you could put it down in the corner, like
it doesn't have to be in the middle of your picture. Just something they could use to size targets and get some wind calls and stuff. I think that'd be pretty cool. And I agree with John. I mean, obviously, this is just our opinion. 2 people, very small sample size, but it would be cool. Like if you plan to put AB in your models, have a model that doesn't have it, because a lot of guys don't use AB and they don't want to pay $500 for that. They just want a pure rangefinder, and they can stick that number quickly in their ballistics calculation. And also anything that has Bluetooth in it can be really finicky, right?
Yes.
Like everyone has had that experience where you're using a Bluetooth device and it drops. And not only that, but you have 3 other Bluetooth devices that has to be connected to your phone, right? So there's all this stuff going on. Sometimes simplicity is key for a lot of guys, and like the Fury HDs, for example, a lot of guys look for them without AB because they just want the rangefinder in one package. So and it's
you can add my vote on that too. I think that AB has a finite useful life. I mean, if you don't pay if you don't keep it up to date and all this stuff, it eventually phases out. So and when you invest into good glass, you want to keep it for a long time. So if you need a Kestrel, get a Kestrel. But keep your glass quality glass.
100%. And that's exactly, keep it simple. And one of the things that we're looking at is really, everybody pretty much that competes more or less has a Kestrel Elite or something along those lines that has Bluetooth built in. So we're like, okay, well, a lot of the rangefinders have the capability to tie into your Kestrel, get the solution, and display it back to you, right? So why not do something along those lines if we're going to go that route, right? You don't necessarily have the ballistic engine inside the binos. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. But yeah, I like one of the things, I actually didn't even think of it that way. I'm sure somebody smarter than me did on my team did, but that was the first time that I talked about it. But having the field of view similar at a certain magnification range that whatever you like to compete at, and that 12 to 16x somewhere along the way is nice. And I think somebody in the comments mentioned around 15x would be nice too. But yeah, I wonder what price point we get into at 15x. But
that, and also if you were to use them for hunting using handheld, it's going to be really shaky, right? So that would be more like a specific like PRS spotting type bino setup at that point.
That's sniper series. Everyone puts it on the tripod on top of their game changers.
Right. Yeah, with the bag, of some sort. Yeah.
I wanted to get like a 15x. But you can't find them with a rangefinder, and I really wanted the rangefinder.
John, what happened to your Leica? I thought you were using a Leica rangefinder.
Yeah, well, I've been using the Minox now.
Oh, you ditched the Leica, I guess.
No, I still have the Leica. The Leica, like it or not, it's a better rangefinder. Okay. The Minox is very good. Yeah, I don't have any real complaints with the Minox. But the Leica is a little bit of finer beam. Yeah.
Did you have the 1600?
Yes.
Yep.
And that thing was.
That is something to keep in mind, like the beam dispersion of your rangefinder. Like for PRS, try and keep it narrow, because a lot of these hunting ones, they're big, and you're lasing all the grass in front of it and all this stuff. It can be quite.
So Matt just said, make it expensive.
I mean, and price it at like $400 or something. You know?
And the challenge for
things for $0.
Yeah. The challenge for Rimfire also is like the sniper matches, right? We're burying targets in trees now, so it's like a 2-inch, 3-inch target or a 6-inch target stuck down this alleyway of trees. So that beam dispersion is so critical for that game, if that's the game you want to play in.
But your optic here that you're starting out with, it's PRS oriented. Everything about it is competition, and that's the hot market. Whatever, that's good. So possibly a binos that is competition geared. But with centerfire, you get a lot of spotting scopes, and I can't speak to that because I don't shoot centerfire, and maybe that is really the way to go for centerfire. But for the rimfire, spotting scope is not a very wide choice. And in that, a good binoculars, competition oriented, in that 12, maybe 15, I don't know.
That'd be interesting to see that, because for long range steel, like the 300 and 250, we tend to lean on the spotting scopes.
That's true. Yeah.
Just to find splash a bit better or movement.
But that's because we're dealing with usually 10 times on our
correct
binos. There's a couple guys that have 15s.
Yeah, not many though.
I haven't actually got to use a 15 yet. So
or Chris Ward with his Swarovskis. Those are.
One of the things I find in centerfire is that a lot of the matches here, guys are spotting with their hunting binos. I do the same thing. I just bring my binos with me, or sometimes I'll just use my 6x rangefinder, because I have one of those 1 mile bush nose, and I can just see way better than with a naked eye too. And you can actually usually watch for hits and that kind of stuff. So I don't find I need a ton of mag. So somewhere in the 12 range would be probably perfect.
The binos I use are 12 times, and I find it perfect. Like I can spot Kevin and I, we shoot 300 regularly, and you can see the hits on the steel with the 12 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
High quality glass, lower magnification is better.
Yeah.
Than cheap glass and high mag. Yeah.
Yeah, and it keeps the field of view nice and big too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Which is key when you're spotting for spread out targets, right? Otherwise, you have to have multiple spotters. So.
Yeah, I mean, typically, like we'll have 2 to 3 people spotting at any given time, but it's you don't have to flip back and forth and be like, oh, there's that one.
And then a good solid mounting method for a tripod.
Oh yes.
So you got it. So you can most of them anyway. The typical bino adapter.
Yeah,
that's
that quarter-inch mount thing sucks.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's okay, but if we know
Integrated
this is
Arca?
competition bino, it's going in a tripod. This is its intent. Possibly is a better mounting system.
We're looking at an integrated Arca mount.
Ooh, that's
built
cool.
into the body.
Yep.
Nice.
With a quarter-inch adapter on the bottom if you really want to thread it into an old school thing. But yeah.
All that for $300. That's amazing.
I make no promises on price just yet, but
I couldn't find that pre-order. Could you let me know where that link is?
yeah, I'll send it to you after I send it to Thomas. Yeah, that's fine.
Hey, don't forget me.
And Matt too. Yeah, that's it.
The on the subject of mounting your optics or your binos to your tripod. Oh my God, what's the name of that?
Really right stuff.
Really right stuff makes like a clamp that clamps on one side of it, and it's got the Arca underneath. I had the opportunity to try that recently, and that's a pretty awesome piece of.
But it's like $150 or something.
Yeah, there's like a polymer version that's somewhat affordable, and then there's like a nice CNC machine one that is out of this world. But it's really well made. I have the. The Vortex one that sort of screws in the middle.
Yeah, I hate that thing.
That's awful. It's never stable, and half the time it binds and it jams, and I really don't dislike it. So.
And this is
and it comes loose.
Yeah.
Binos, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's in my car, so I can't pull it
I
up,
have the exact same one. I know which one
Yeah.
you're talking about because I took it hunting with me backcountry last year, and I didn't end up using it.
Don't copy that. That's no good.
Yeah.
Because then you could run it on your bag.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'd really like it to clamp in, like Arca, something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Arca is the way to go now for everything, right? So we're trying to do that. Keep it standard.
I guess even if you had a way to mount a Arca, if somebody wanted, they could still use the old-fashioned
quarter 20
mounting system if they wanted, or you could screw it. Yeah.
Yeah, just put
I'll let you have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the thing that we're doing right now. I think we're designing like an integral Arca setup in there, and then it'll have a quarter 20 thread underneath so you could put whatever adapter you want in there.
It sounds like you're further along than just an idea.
Sounds like there's been some thought.
Yeah. I mean,
I sense that too.
I can't show my cards on everything, but we're working through stuff. Like we're full
we really don't care about Rival. We just want to know when the binos are coming out.
That's good.
People are never happy, right, Vanya? You spent like a year building the ultimate product. Now they want to know, so where's the next one?
Well, yeah, people are emailing me all the time. They're like, "Hey, could you have like a baby brother version of this scope?" I'm like, "Well, not yet, but we can come up with something." But
actually, all kidding aside, so that $700 price point for production level is a real thing for people, right?
For sure.
But that market is definitely more saturated than what Vanya's going for right now, because there are quite a few scopes now in the 700 USD range, right?
But if they buy a Rival, right, and they want to buy a scope for their son or daughter, right?
You read my mind,
right? They want that, right? And and then that's the drag. You're not trying to break in. You're just offering your existing customers an option to stay within the family.
And I am talking to our manufacturer about that right now, and say, what can we do in that for the Rimfire production class? Because that's something that we definitely want to make an offering for. The reason why we decided to go this way, risk route first, is establish ourselves as a brand, get a reputation for quality. Like that's one of the things that we'll stand behind at any given time. But the next products that we come out with have to meet certain product and price specifications, right, to play in other markets. And like you said, it's saturated. There are lots of decent scopes and good scopes for that price range there for sure. But people have to trust us first, and we're never gonna go for a lesser quality product than somebody else. So no matter what we come up with in that production class range, I can promise you it's still gonna have ED glass. Like we're not gonna mess around with that. We're not gonna come up with something subpar. We can go with a slightly cheaper version, but
it's gonna
we'll
look.
try to hit that.
The same.
Yeah, it's gonna have the same form function, same turrets, same knobs, same look and feel. And
dang, okay. So just make the exact same scope in China and then offer it for $700. Not kidding.
yeah. Honestly, we're looking at it really hard right now. Yeah. I mean, in fact, I have a manufacturer who's pinging me right now because they want to talk. So yeah, honestly, yeah, we've been going down that road pretty hard. So
nice.
We'll hopefully have something to announce in the next 5 or 6 months.
We're all waiting with bated breath, Vanja. I mean, and we haven't even seen the first optic yet, so it's
That's
good.
right.
Obviously, you're a very convincing man.
I'm a good salesperson. No, I'm kidding. I suck at sales. That's what I got out of it. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Anything else, guys? I know we're on at 1:44.
Yeah, I think I pumped out all the questions I had.
Everyone got your wish lists are out there. Van just take
exactly.
notes, put your initials beside each one.
Santa Claus got everybody's wishes right now, so
Vanja is Santa Claus this year.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. Well, congrats on everything you've achieved so far. We're anxiously awaiting the them in the wild. See how they do.
Yeah, no, thanks guys for having me on. Really appreciate it, and we're excited to come out with this and start shipping them to customers early in the year. That'd be that's what we're working really hard towards. I'm talking to shipping companies and brokerage houses and everybody just trying to get this thing. I'm like, honestly, if I have to go buy a ship and sell it after I'm done with it to get the first load over, I will do it. Yeah. So
there you go. Just pay my airfare. I'll go there, get them, and bring them back with me.
Yeah,
I would do that for you, Vanja.
It's like 3 pallets of carry-on, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I appreciate it. No, we're very excited to get these to market. So the sooner we can do it, the better.
Well, thanks again for being so easy to work with, so accommodating. Thanks for putting all the hard work and efforts. It's almost there, Van. Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there.
It's almost there.
January's just around the corner. So
it's gonna come fast.
Yeah, for sure. And I think everyone I've spoken to is excited about trying them out just to make up their mind so they can either love it or hate it, right? And it's going to be one of those two.
Oh yeah. We're ready for the hate too. That's fine.
There we go. That's it.
I don't think you'll get much hate, to be honest.
Yeah. That's good.
We'll be fair.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And we honestly, like, we're open to criticism, and if we missed it on something, we'll try to get it better next time. Like, right?
It's the first one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Being the first one is, you can only think about so many things. There's 1.1, 1.2, 2.0. So
yeah,
cool.
It's just like people waiting to start. We'll shoot our first competition when we're ready. You're never ready.
You
got to get out there. You got to make a fool of yourself. You got to fail to succeed. And getting out there and starting. Yeah. That's what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a question.
Touching on what John said earlier, you guys chose a reputable partner to get started, so your odds are excellent.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem.
That's good. I'm assuming reviewers are going to get it in the next, after the first deliveries are done.
A couple of the reviewers might get some of these pre-production ones first to take a look at and kind of start some of the buzz around that. More or less, it's going to be the same. There's just a couple of little changes that we were recommending, but we might send around a couple of reviewers first, and then the first big wave of reviews are probably going to be sometime in January, February. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, I'm sure by Sunday night there'll be some comments in the groups, people chiming in.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Awesome. And you know what? We encourage people to chat about it. Obviously, it's buzz is good all around. And if somebody doesn't like something about it and you want to tell me, absolutely, just fill out the form online, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. It's all good. We're more than happy to take the good with the bad.
Perfect.
And the bad with the good. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else, guys? Awesome. Thanks, Vanja. Thanks to our sponsor, Tesro.ca, your source for all your precision shooting needs. Small family-run business, Canadian through and through. Nice guys. Always excited to help you get on that road to marksmanship. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share, help others discover the Rimfire Nation podcast. Almost live almost every Wednesday. unless Rick's traveling in his trailer and has no cell service. So that's it. Thanks, Vanya. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
We'll see most of you guys this weekend at the match.
Yeah, good luck,
Stay
everyone.
safe. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Take it easy, guys.
See you.
See ya.